Have you ever felt like you were wasting your potential, but couldn't explain why? Like a better version of you is watching silently, disappointed, maybe even angry, asking, "Why are you still here?" Let me tell you something you won't hear in most English videos. The problem isn't your vocabulary, it's your silence, and the voice you've been ignoring isn't fear. It's your future self trying to save you. This is not just another lesson, it's a moment that could split your timeline in two. Because one night, I met a version of myself I had buried under excuses, and he didn't come with inspiration. He came with a warning: change, or keep dying slowly, pretending it's just life. In this video, I'm going to walk you into that moment, sentence by sentence, thought by thought. And if you stay with me, you won't just understand English better. You'll remember who you were before you started hiding. And you'll finally start speaking, not like a student, but like someone who remembers they were meant for more. That night was different. The kind of quiet that doesn't come from silence. It comes from surrender. I had been fighting the same thoughts for weeks. What if I never become the person I want to be? And then the noise stopped. For the first time in months, my mind sat still. And in that stillness, something or someone began to speak. It wasn't a stranger. It wasn't a dream. It was me, but older, wiser, clearer. This voice didn't stutter like mine did. It didn't overthink or apologize. It simply said, "Your future self exists." And the moment I heard it, something inside me cracked open, not in fear, but in deep recognition. The voice felt impossible, like it came from a version of me I had abandoned long ago. Yet somehow it felt familiar, like a memory I had buried under years of doubt, delay, and self-sabotage. It spoke slowly, not with hope, but with certainty. And what struck me most, it wasn't begging me, it was waiting for me. "Describe me," the voice whispered. I looked inward, calm, powerful, focused. Those were the first three adjectives that came to mind, words I had never used for myself before, and yet, when I said them aloud, they didn't feel foreign. They felt like home, like pieces of me I had forgotten how to claim. Then came the shame, the sting of wasted time. I saw flashes of who I could have been, the fluent speaker, the disciplined learner, the person who didn't hesitate every time they had to speak English. The distance between who I was and who I could be burned, and not because the gap was too big, but because it had been avoidable. My eyes welled up, not from sadness, but from a kind of sacred grief. The grief of finally realizing it was never English I was afraid of. It was becoming someone better. I whispered a sentence I imagined my future self saying to me: "Stop treating your potential like a maybe." That line hit me like thunder. My mouth repeated it. My chest remembered it. Then the voice returned, but this time it didn't give advice. It gave an invitation. "Come," it said, "walk toward me." And for once in my life, I didn't feel like I was chasing something. I felt like I was returning to something that had always been mine. And the most beautiful part? I didn't need to be perfect, I just needed to begin. So I stood up, closed my eyes, and imagined speaking as that version of myself. I am clear. I am calm. I speak English fluently. I own my time. I don't shrink when I talk. It felt awkward at first, like trying on someone else's clothes. But then it clicked. I wasn't pretending to be someone else. I was remembering who I already am. And that voice was just the beginning. If you want to stay stuck, here's the formula. Keep believing your future self is just a fantasy. Keep telling yourself, that version of me is unrealistic. I'm just not that type of person. It's easy, right? You get to avoid effort, risk, discomfort. But here's what nobody tells you. When you silence the voice of your future self, you don't just lose a vision, you lose your direction. So go ahead. Keep doing what you already hate. Complain about it. Wake up tired, go to work numb, and convince yourself it's just life. Ignore the tiny voice at night that says, "This isn't who I'm meant to be." But don't be surprised when 5 years pass and nothing changes. If you want regret, You're on the right path. It starts with one excuse and ends with a life unlived. Want to make sure your English never improves? Easy. Just study without imagining who you want to become. Make learning mechanical, emotionless, abstract. Study grammar rules without dreaming of conversations. Learn words without attaching them to your identity. You'll become a walking dictionary, one that never speaks. If fear is your favorite feeling, keep pretending your decisions don't matter. Every time you choose distraction over discipline, you're feeding the version of you that stays small. That one video before bed becomes 2 years of inaction. That I'll speak English tomorrow becomes a life of silence. Want to make fear your default setting? Then keep living passively. But if you're tired of that, if part of you is done with wasting time, then visualize one future scenario that feels so real, it hurts. Maybe it's you speaking English confidently in a job interview. Maybe it's you laughing during a conversation abroad. Whatever it is, see it. Right now, let that image guide you like a lighthouse in fog. Next, change one micro-behavior today. Just one. Speak to yourself in English for 5 minutes. Write one future letter in English. Practice one powerful sentence you'll need next time someone says, "Tell me about yourself." Fluency doesn't come from big moves. It comes from tiny, repeated courage. Now describe your English future self, out loud, not in your head, with your voice. I speak clearly. I express myself. I'm not scared to be heard. Let those words vibrate in the room. Let them interrupt your old self-image, even if it feels fake, especially if it feels fake. That's how change begins. Not with certainty, but with willingness. And finally, make one bold English decision today. Book a conversation class. Post your voice on social media. Call that friend and speak for 3 minutes in English. Not tomorrow, now. Because if you keep ignoring your future self, you'll meet them one day, not as a mentor, but as a stranger full of disappointment. And their silence will be the loudest thing you've ever heard. He was sitting alone, late at night, the glow of his laptop screen reflecting on his tired eyes. He had watched another English video, like dozens before, but this time, something shifted. He leaned back and closed his eyes, and in that moment, he saw a version of himself standing in front of him, speaking English naturally, fluently, without fear. It wasn't a fantasy. It was a mirror of who he could be. The future version wasn't flashy. He wasn't perfect, but he looked grounded, confident, free. His mouth moved with ease, like the words belonged to him, and for the first time the man realized fluency doesn't start with vocabulary. It starts with identity. The imagined version of himself wasn't fiction. It was a blueprint. Then something strange happened. The future version spoke, calmly, but directly. "Why are you scared of becoming me?" The question cut through the silence like a blade. Not in anger, but in truth. The man felt exposed. Like this version had seen through all his excuses, the ones that had kept him in the same cycle for years. He whispered back, "Because if I try and fail, it'll mean I'm not enough." And there it was, the real fear, not of English, but of transformation. He wasn't afraid of new words. He was afraid of becoming someone different, of letting go of who he had always been, shy, doubtful, small, and stepping into someone who had power. He looked at his reflection in the window. "What if I disappoint you?" The future self smiled, not with pity but with challenge. "Then disappoint me trying, not hiding." At that moment the man opened his voice recorder. With shaking hands, he spoke for the first time. "Hi, I'm practicing English. I want to speak freely. I want to stop holding back." A small act, but something shifted inside. He listened to the recording. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And in that imperfection, he felt something he hadn't felt in a long time. Pride. Not because he was fluent, but because he finally showed up. And that tiny decision cracked open a door he never thought he had the right to enter. He looked at the imagined version of himself once more. "I'm not going to run anymore," he said. "I'll meet you, even if it takes time." Then, he picked a 1-minute video from a confident English speaker and shadowed it, repeating each word with intention. It wasn't about imitation, it was a promise to never let his unlived life stay trapped in imagination, a promise to honor that vision, to take it seriously, to give it breath, voice, time. And as he whispered one last sentence, "I will not disappoint you again," something ancient inside him woke up, something that had been silent for far too long. Scientists call it prefrontal projection, but you don't need a PhD to understand it. Every time you imagine your future self, a specific part of your brain lights up, the same part responsible for decision-making, focus, and discipline. That's not magic. That's biology. When you visualize your future English life, your brain starts preparing for it like it's already real. But here's the twist. Most people imagine their future passively, like it's a movie they're watching, not a life they're building. If you want to change, you have to enter the scene. Speak to your future self. Not just think, speak. In English, out loud. Give the vision a voice, a tone, a temperature. That's how motivation becomes action. When your future feels vague, you feel distant from it. It's just a someday. But the moment it becomes vivid, a job interview, a trip abroad, a conversation with someone you admire, your emotional brain steps in. It says, "This matters." That's called emotional distance collapse. The more clearly you see the future, the more likely you are to move toward it. Let's do it now. Picture a real English conversation you want to have. Maybe it's explaining your skills in a job interview, or maybe it's ordering coffee in New York without fear. See it, smell the coffee, hear your own voice speaking fluently. Your brain is recording this. You're not just visualizing, you're training. Now here's the next psychological shift, the identity extension effect. When you visualize your future self regularly, your brain starts treating that person like a real, living being, someone you care about, someone you want to protect. That means every choice you make today, including English practice, becomes personal, not a task, a promise. So say this now, "Future me, I've got your back." Speak one sentence like you're advising your future self. Keep going, you're becoming fluent. This simple act, a 5-second spoken sentence, can change how your brain tracks progress. It connects effort with emotion. It makes growth feel like protection, not pressure. And here's the most fascinating part. When you imagine a better version of yourself and then take one small action, your fear drops. That's called the action trigger principle. Visualization prepares the nervous system. Action anchors the emotion. So right now, do one thing in English. Watch a short video and shadow it. Record a 20-second message. Write one English sentence that reflects who you're becoming. This isn't fluff. It's neuroscience. It's how Olympic athletes train, how leaders prepare, how people who reinvent themselves begin. You're not just learning English, you're rewiring your future, one sentence, one vision, one decision at a time. And the more you practice this, the more real your future self becomes. Did you enjoy the content and it made a difference for you? Click on Super Thanks and support our work. There is a kind of grief most people never talk about. The grief of unrealized potential. The quiet sadness of knowing you were capable of more, but didn't start soon enough. Your future self is not patiently waiting in the distance. They are watching, hurting, begging you to stop wasting the days you've been given. And that ache you feel when you delay your dreams, that's them calling out to you. It's easy to say, "I'll begin next week," or "maybe when I feel ready." But while you wait for perfect timing, your future self is screaming in silence, "Please don't abandon me." That voice isn't just imagination. It's you in your full power. And every day you delay, you widen the gap. You live small when you were meant to grow large. You hide when you were meant to speak. Transformation doesn't happen through comfort. It asks for something harder. Courage. The courage to stop pretending you're not ready. The courage to step into a new identity, even when your voice still trembles. Becoming fluent in English isn't just about language. It's about letting go of the safe, small version of you who hides behind "maybe later." Ask yourself right now, What part of me is holding me back? Maybe it's fear of sounding stupid. Maybe it's the belief that people like you don't speak fluently. Write it down. Name it. Because if you don't, it will keep running your life. You can't heal what you haven't faced. And that voice, the one that called you to become more, it wasn't fantasy. It wasn't daydreaming. It was your deeper self catching up to you. The version of you that remembers who you were before life made you doubt. That voice is not your imagination. It's your identity, knocking. So say something that feels too big for you. Something you normally wouldn't dare say. Something like, I am becoming fluent. I am disciplined. I will change my life with English. Let the words feel uncomfortable. Say them anyway, because growth always sounds too big until it becomes real. You don't choose your future self like you choose a shirt. You grow into them, slowly, painfully, with effort and mistakes and decisions that scare you. But one day, you wake up and realize you've become them. You didn't arrive, you built them, through every small action that felt invisible at the time. So right now, write 2 lines in English about who you are becoming. Don't overthink it. Just write. I am someone who speaks English with confidence. I am someone who doesn't run from challenge anymore. Say it once a day. Make it a ritual. Because your future self isn't a fantasy. They are your responsibility. Your brain doesn't know the difference between real and imagined when the emotion is strong enough. That's called the narrative simulation effect. When you speak to your future self, not in your head, but with your voice, your brain thinks it's a real experience. It fires the same neurons used in real conversations, and slowly, identity begins to shift. Close your eyes. Speak to your future self for 30 seconds. It might feel awkward. Say things like, you've grown. You didn't give up. You speak English now. You're helping people. I'm proud of you. That's not silly, that's science. When language and imagination meet emotion, your brain lays down new pathways, rewiring you from the inside out. Here's why it works. Emotion encodes memory. If you hear a word during an emotional moment, it sticks. It becomes part of you. That's why trauma is hard to forget. But it also means joy, pride, and vision are powerful tools. So next time you learn a word, connect it. Don't just memorize, feel it. Like the word liberation, imagine your future self finally speaking fluently and feeling free. Let's anchor that right now. Choose 3 English words that belong in your future story. For example, confident, clarity, impact. Use them in one sentence. Say, I will speak English with clarity, I will speak with confidence, I will make an impact. Simple? Yes. But your brain is listening. This creates a fluency priming loop. You imagine speaking, you speak a little, it becomes easier to imagine you speak more. It's a cycle, and every time you repeat it, the hesitation fades. Shadowing English while visualizing your future life multiplies your fluency speed. Why? Because your mouth and mind are learning to trust each other. Let's do that right now. Choose 1 sentence from a confident speaker. I'm proud of how far I've come. Shadow it 10 times while imagining yourself giving a TED talk, or leading a meeting, or traveling abroad. That's not practice, that's preparation. You're rehearsing the life you want, in your body, in your breath. And here's the deeper layer, identity anchoring. When you repeat these rituals daily, they stop feeling like exercises. They start feeling like truth. Your future self isn't just a vision anymore. It's a voice inside you, shaping how you act, speak, and show up today. So tonight, try this. Before bed, speak for 2 minutes as your future self. Record it. Say, I'm fluent, I'm clear, I speak with confidence now. Do it every night for 7 days. Not for motivation, for transformation. This isn't magic, it's neuroplasticity. You're not just changing your English, you're rewiring who you are becoming. Something fascinating happens when people begin speaking to their future self. Their posture changes. They sit taller, walk with more intention. It's as if the body starts remembering where it's going. Even before fluency arrives, the identity arrives. When they speak a sentence like, "I am learning, I am becoming confident," their body agrees. Yes, we are. That change isn't loud, it's subtle, but you feel it. You wake up and make different choices. You reach for your notebook instead of your phone. You rehearse that one English sentence you've been avoiding. You're no longer drifting, you're choosing. Every action starts to carry the weight of direction. You start noticing distractions more easily and rejecting them more quickly. That's the clarity shift. It's not discipline out of force, it's discipline out of alignment. Your brain goes, "If that's where I'm headed, this doesn't belong anymore." Agrees, that's when fluency accelerates, when it's connected to identity, not pressure. Now ask yourself, what's one English task you've been avoiding? A video, a voice message, a grammar point that feels too big? Today's the day. Not because you have to, but because your future self deserves a better path. One clear action creates a ripple in your system. We're doing this now, and the ripple doesn't stop. People around you start noticing you're not just learning English anymore. You speak differently, you move differently, and the world responds. That's the confidence ripple. When identity shifts, energy changes, and people can feel it in your voice, in your eyes, even in your silence. You walk into new spaces. You use English in a conversation you would have avoided last month. You volunteer to speak up in a meeting. You respond in a group chat in English instead of just reading quietly. These are not small wins. These are identity confirmations. Every moment says, "I'm not who I used to be." Want to accelerate it? Put yourself in a new environment, a Zoom room, a language group, a book club. Use English where you normally wouldn't, not to impress, to reinforce, because the more your environment matches your future, the faster you adapt. It's not magic, it's momentum. And here's the most beautiful part. Your future self is no longer just a vision in your head. They're in your words, in your actions, in your schedule. The present version of you has begun living on purpose, and that purpose is what starts to make the future feel inevitable. Why did my future self appear to me? That question stayed with them for days. It wasn't random. It wasn't a dream. It came during a moment of drift, when life felt heavy, numb, automatic, and the answer was clear. Because I was drifting. That voice came not to inspire, but to interrupt, to pull them out of slow-motion survival. That moment felt sacred. A quiet invitation to stop postponing the life they were meant for. What did they want from me? The voice asked again. Not perfection, not productivity, just presence. To finally say, enough. Enough waiting, enough doubting, enough shrinking. So they began with one sentence, "I choose direction." Not later, now. And it changed everything. Because once you choose direction, every action becomes lighter. You don't waste energy on fear when you've already decided to walk. They asked themselves, what do I want? Not someday, but right now. And the answers came fast. I want peace, I want purpose, I want to speak English without feeling small. So they spoke, for 60 seconds, raw, honest, not fluent, but free. And in that shaky voice, there was truth. Who am I becoming? The answer didn't come from a book. It came from experience. I'm becoming someone who finally honors what matters. A person whose present actions and future vision finally align. Not overnight, but each day, closer. And then the declaration, the one that moved something deep inside them. My future begins today. Not because they felt ready, but because they were done feeling lost. And when that sentence left their lips, it didn't just change their mindset. It restructured their nervous system. It became a commitment. From that day on, the future self didn't feel like a fantasy. It felt like a guide, quiet, firm, present. Not ahead of them, but beside them. And every day they spoke as that version. The old self shrank. The ghost of regret was replaced by the fire of responsibility. So tonight they did something new. They picked up their phone, hit record and spoke for 20 seconds. As their future self. No filter, no performance, just presence. And with every word, the distance between them and who they wanted to be disappeared. They didn't imagine transformation anymore. They embodied it. So now I have to ask you, will you let this be just another video you watch and forget? Or will you speak, even if your voice shakes? Because somewhere, deep inside, you already know. You've been postponing the life that's calling you. Not because you're lazy, but because it hurts to admit how long you've stayed small. But here's the good news. Your future self is still here, not to judge you, but to remind you of everything you could still become. You don't need to be fluent to start. You just need to speak, write, practice, imagine every day a little more, a little closer, until one day you're not just learning English, you're becoming the person you always knew you could be. Now take a deep breath and ask yourself, what would my future self want me to do tonight? Speak one sentence in English, write one line in your journal, record your voice, even for 10 seconds. That's enough. That's everything. And if this video spoke to something deep inside you, don't keep that feeling to yourself. Subscribe to this channel, because here, English is not just grammar, it's transformation. Like this video to remind yourself that you choose growth. Leave a comment. Tell me, what did your future self say to you? And turn on notifications, because your journey is just beginning, and I'll be right here walking with you. You're not learning English anymore. You're learning how to come back to yourself.